The Disappearance of Astrid Bricard is based a little bit on a woman named Mitza Bricard, who was known in all of the non-fiction books about Christian Dior as Christian Dior's muse. And when you actually look at the research about Mitza, you'll discover that Mitza was his assistant designer. And there are many amazing fashion people from that time who have called Mitza everything from a greater designer than Coco Chanel. So I wanted to really look at, well, how does it happen that a woman that people believed was a greater designer than Coco Chanel, how has she become a footnote in the Dior story as his muse? She was not his muse. And it's so often in those creative partnerships between men and women that the women are, devalued and considered a muse when, Camille Claudel, Rodin's muse, but Camille was a sculptor. Dora Maar was a photographer, but she's Picasso's muse, all of those women. So it was kind of interrogating how does that happen and why does it happen and how can we stop it from happening? So it was based on Mitza, who was a real person.
Did she really disappear?
No, so I invented Astrid, who is Mitza's daughter, and because I wanted to look at what would that legacy be like of the muse that kind of gets passed down from generation to generation. So I played fast and loose with the truth there, which of course you can do when you're writing historical fiction. And I love that combination of fact and fiction and being able to illuminate events that really happened and shed a new light on them and make them really engaging to readers by being able to fictionalize elements around them. One of the biggest compliments that I love getting is when readers say to me, I read your book and then I read the author's note at the end, and then I went away and did so much more research on Mitza Bricard or the Battle of Versailles, which is an event around which that book hangs, because I was so interested in it. And I think that's great, it set them off on a path of discovery and curiosity. It's really gut instinct, and I'll just get to a place in the story where I think, okay, now, and I think it's because going back to what we talked about at the start, being read to as a child, you learn to understand the shape a story needs to have, and you learn to understand that stories must have moments that make you sit up and pay attention, and without it, your mind wanders. And so when you're writing, intuitively that this is the moment where something needs to happen to capture the reader's attention. So this is where I've got to put in a little bit of a clue where the reader goes, oh, okay, right, okay, now I'll go off down that path. Oh, okay, that's a red herring, but here's another clue. Let me start to contemplate what that might mean. So it's all very intuitive and very gut-based. I think it'll be much less stressful to be able to outline those things up front, but it's unfortunately not how my mind works. So I have to go with the stress and thinking, oh gosh, I hope this works out.
So would a character like Astrid be leading you then to?
Yeah, definitely. I do sometimes feel that the characters are leading me through the story. And interestingly, in this one, there's another character called Hawk Jones who plays a bit of a big part in the story. He was more so leading me than Astrid. And I think that's because of the role he plays in that story in terms of being both Astrid's lover and nemesis almost at times. And I needed him to be that. And perhaps that was why he was the one leading me, because then I could look at, okay, what are the repercussions of what he did in that moment on Astrid? So the story unraveled that way. No, I hear it all in my head. I always say that it's like there's a big movie screen above my computer, and as I'm typing, I'm seeing and hearing it all playing out on that movie screen. And so I'm really just kind of typing what's playing on the screen. That's what writing feels like to me. So it's all visually and audibly happening, and I just have to capture it as it does. I am just about to embark on the edit for my next book, which has a working title of The Secret Life of Marie Madeleine. I don't know what it will be called when it's actually published, but this book is about France's only female resistance leader during the Second World War, a woman who is probably the most heroic person I have ever written about in my life. And I'm gobsmacked that nobody has novelized her story until this point, because she deserves a book. And it's the biggest fear you have when you're writing about a real person. It's like you're scanning, publishers marketplace thinking, oh, I don't want to, waiting for your announcement to go out that you're writing about this, because then that's kind of staking your claim on that person. And you know that nobody will then write a book about it because they've seen that you're doing it. Yeah, it's very nerve wracking.